College will present a shawl to Sri Annamalai Sir, State President, BJP Tamil Nadu.
Very good morning to everyone. The principal, the management members, and Mr. Deepak Mehta, who have been organizing this program, our Honorable Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, Mr. Annamalai Sir, Mr. H. Raja Sir. We all welcome you on behalf of Modi 20 committee. So, Modi 20 denotes a term because he is the only democratically elected to serve more than 20 years in public office in any country in any democracy. So this is in itself an achievement. Currently he has completed 21 years now. So to commemorate his services to the nation, few well-wishers, people who work with him, they all came together, 22 people. They wrote their experiences with the Prime Minister since the days of 2001. And they have published this book. We are very proud to introduce this book to students who will be the future of our country. This occasion is even more special because we have Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji. It is not very easy that you get to hear from people who closely work with the Prime Minister. Like you all know, he is the MOS of Prime Minister's office. He interacts and works on a daily basis with the Prime Minister. So I think these experiences we will never get, even if you read hundreds of books. He is here with us to share his experiences about the Prime Minister, his personality, his working style, and etc. I think we are very privileged to have Mr. Jitendra Singh Ji, who is in very close connection with the Prime Minister, to deliver this program. This is his first lecture on this series in Tamil Nadu. This is the first college that has got the opportunity to hear from Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji. So on behalf of Modi 20 Book Committee and on behalf of BJP Tamil Nadu, I welcome all of you students. I am sure this session will be enriching. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We invite Sri H. Raja Sir, convener of Modi at 20, South India, to address the gathering.
இன்றைய தினம் மோடி at 20 ட்ரீம்ஸ் மீட் டெலிவரி இந்த புத்தகத்தை இங்கு நம்முடைய கல்லூரியிலே மாணவ செல்வங்களுக்கு அறிமுகப்படுத்தி உரையாற்றி வந்திருக்கின்ற மாண்புமிகு மத்திய அமைச்சர் திரு டாக்டர் ஜிதேந்திர பிரசாத் அவர்களே, பாரதிய ஜனதா கட்சியினுடைய மாநில தலைவர் திரு கே அண்ணாமலை அவர்களே, இந்த மோடி 20 தமிழ்நாடு டீம் உறுப்பினர் எஸ் ஜி சூர்யா அவர்களே, கல்லூரி செயலாளர் நீண்ட நாள் நண்பர் திரு சீனிவாசன் அவர்களே, இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை மிக குறுகிய மணி நேரங்கள் ஏற்பாடு செய்த அருமை நண்பர் தீபக் மேத்தா அவர்களே, திரு கண்ணோடி அவர்களே, கல்லூரியினுடைய முதல்வர் அவர்களே, மாணவ செல்வங்களே, ஊடக நண்பர்களே, இது மோடி அவர்களை பற்றிய புத்தகம் அல்ல. இது அவருடைய நிர்வாக அணுகுமுறை. ஒவ்வொரு துறையிலும் சோஷியல் எம்பவர்மெண்ட், பொருளாதாரம், வெளிநாட்டு உறவுகள், அம்மாதிரியாக அவருடைய நிர்வாகத்தினுடைய இன்சைட் என்ன. நான் இங்க சொல்ல மறந்துட்டேன், சென்னை மாநகரே பாஜகவின் ஒரே கார்பரேட்டர் திருமதி உமானந்தன் அவர்களே. ஆகவே இது ஒருவர் புத்தகமாக எழுதியிருந்தால் இந்த புத்தகத்தில் போய் 21 பேர் அவருடைய கட்டுரைகளை எழுதியிருக்கிறார். யாராவது ஒருவர் புத்தகம் போட்டிருந்தால் இப்படி பல்வேறு விஷயங்களும் மக்களுக்கு கொண்டு வந்திருக்க முடியுமாங்கிறது சந்தேகம். நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா பிஜேபி எதிர்த்து போட்டியிட்ட நந்தன் இளங்கனி கூட ஒரு ஆர்டிகல் எழுதியிருக்கார். நம்முடைய மாண்புமிகு அமைச்சர் அமித்ஷா அவர்கள், சகோதரி சித்து அவர்கள், இந்த மாதிரியாக 21 ஆத்தர்ஸ் ஒவ்வொரு சப்ஜெக்டையும் இது 5 பெரிய சாப்டரா பிரிச்சு 21 கட்டுரைகள் எழுதப்பட்டிருக்கு. ஆகவே இத மாணவர்கள் படிக்கணும். அதுவும் குறிப்பா தமிழ்நாட்டில் இங்கு நான் பெண் குழந்தைகள் என்றே சொல்வேன். காரணம், எனக்கு 4 பேர குழந்தைகள் உண்டு. எனவே தமிழகத்தில் இந்த மாதிரியான உண்மைகளை நாம் அறிந்து கொள்ள வேண்டியது அவசியமாகிறது. ஏன்னா பொய்களை நேரேட்டிவா செட் பண்ணி நீங்க 20 ஆண்டுகள் தொடர்ந்து எலெக்டிவ் பொசிஷன்ல மோடிஜி இருந்திருக்காரு. இந்தியா பல்வேறு டைவர்சிட்டிஸ் இருக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு தேசம். ஆகவே அதுல அதுவும் டெமோக்ரஸி இங்க ரொம்ப ஃப்ரீ டெமோக்ரஸி, யார் வேணா என்ன வேணா பேசலாம். அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு ஆர்குமெண்டேட்டிவ் dissent is an essence of democracy, there is no doubt about it. ஆனா அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு சொசைட்டில 20 ஆண்டுகள் ஒரு தேர்தலுக்கு தேர்தல், அவர் 2001 அக்டோபர் மாதம் குஜராத்தின் முதலமைச்சராக பொறுப்பேற்றதிலிருந்து 2014 பிரதமராக 19 14 பெற்றதை விட அதிக வெற்றி. ஆகவே உலகத்திலேயே 20 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு மேல், இன்னைக்கு 22 வருஷம் ஆகும்போது, அவருடைய ஒவ்வொரு விஷயத்திலும் சோஷியல் எம்பவர்மெண்ட்னா என்ன, பொருளாதார அணுகுமுறை என்ன, அந்நிய நாட்டு உறவுகள் அணுகுமுறை என்ன என்கின்ற அனைத்து உண்மைகளும் நம் கண் முன்பாக இந்த புத்தகம் படம் போட்டு காட்டியிருக்கிறது. ஆகவே இந்த புத்தகத்தை இன்னைக்கு மிகப்பெரிய வலிமை மிக்க ஒரு அமைச்சர் டாக்டர் ஜிதேந்திர பிரசாத் அவர்கள், அவர் அதோடு மட்டுமல்ல, பாரத தாயின் தலை மகுடத்திலிருந்து தேர்ந்தெடுக்கப்பட்டு அவர் பாராளுமன்றத்தில் பணியாற்றிக் கொண்டிருக்கிறார். ஆகவே அவர் இதை உங்களுக்கு அறிமுகப்படுத்தி பேச இருப்பது நமக்கு கிடைத்த ஒரு பெரிய பாக்கியமாக கருதி, நீங்கள் அனைவரும் அவர் சொல்லுகின்ற கருத்தினை உன்னிப்பாக உள்வாங்கி உண்மை நிலையை நாம் உணர்வதோடு மக்களுக்கும் நம்மோடு இருப்பவர்களுக்கும் எடுத்துச் சொல்ல வேண்டும் என்று கேட்டுக்கொண்டு என்னுடைய வார்த்தையை நிறைவு செய்கிறேன்.
Thank you, sir. We now request Shri K. Annamalai sir, ex-IPS and State President of BJP Tamil Nadu, to deliver the presidential address.
அன்பார்ந்த மாணவ செல்வங்களே, ஒரு அற்புதமான நிகழ்ச்சி நம்முடைய MOB வைஷ்ணவ் காலேஜ் ஃபார் உமனில் நடந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. நல்ல ஒரு மனிதனுடைய வாழ்க்கை சரித்திரத்தை பற்றி நம்முடைய பாரத பிரதமர் நரேந்திர மோடி ஐயா அவருடைய 21 ஆண்டு காலம் இந்தியாவுடைய முதலமைச்சராக, பிரதமராக அவரை பல கண்ணோட்டத்திலே பல மனிதர்கள் பார்த்திருக்கின்றார்கள். அதனுடைய தொகுப்பாக இந்த புத்தகம் இருக்கிறது, மோடி at 20. இதனை வெளியிட்டு பேச வந்திருக்கக்கூடிய மனிதரும் கூட அதற்கு முழு பொருத்தமாக இருக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு மனிதர், நம்முடைய பாரத பிரதமரை மிக அருகாமையில் இருந்து பார்க்கக்கூடியவர். If there is one minister in the central cabinet who watches our prime minister very closely, who has got the privilege to interact with our prime minister on a daily basis, and who can talk about this great man and the way he is shaping up Indian democracy, the way he is shaping up the world order. If there is one person who can talk legitimately, fully, completely, it is none other than our Minister of State for Science and Technology and Air, Prime Minister's Office, Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy, Department of Space, Sri Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji. It is also another honor that Sir comes from one part of India, from the Jammu and Kashmir, and today he is in the farthest part of the other part of India in Tamil Nadu and Chennai. So we cannot find a better person to come and talk about the idea of India which our Modi ji is shaping up. This event is not possible without our former National Secretary, our senior leader and the convener of Modi at 20 for Southern India, Sri H. Raja ji, and our young State Secretary who is part of this committee, who is spearheading this project in Tamil Nadu, Sri S. G. Surya ji, and some of the great people who are sitting here. 31 years back, they all decided they wanted a wonderful college in the heart of Chennai, a college for women which would focus on integrity, which would focus on high quality education, which would focus on shaping some fantastic women who can come out into the field and achieve various great things. So all those great people are sitting here, especially in the stage, the chairperson board of governors, Sri M.D. Srinivas ji, and people sitting in the front row, Deepak Mehta ji, Kannodi ji, and all senior people part of this board. And very, very importantly, the principal of this great college, Dr. Lalita Balakrishnan, who is chiseling all those vision into a daily action, Madam Dr. Lalita Balakrishnan. And we all know MOB Vaishnav is one of the great educational institutions in Tamil Nadu, especially in Chennai. And we keep seeing your laurels in different newspapers, different television channels, in sports, in academics, in all different fields. You have brought laurels to Tamil Nadu, laurels to India. In the recent Kelo India Games also, which our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has started for the youth of our country, in the girls section, out of the 20 medals that Tamil Nadu got, 16 medals came from the single college. One college produced 16 medals out of 20. In the recent chess Olympiad, one of your students represented India and she won a bronze medal also, Vaishali got a bronze medal representing our country in the chess Olympiad. And Anita Paldurai, who was our former basketball India captain and an excellent woman, excellent role model, she also comes from your college. We can keep talking about it. So we are very happy that today it's our privilege to bring our Dr. Jitendra Singh ji to this wonderful college to talk to these young, eager minds about this book. Definitely, this is not the politician's journey. Often you see a politician gets eulogized. He gets spoken about in very high order. We say a politician does miracle, a politician is equal to God. That is how a politician is eulogized. But especially with respect to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, he has transcended the image of politician long time back. He has transcended that image. He is a doer. He is India's one of our finest administrator. More than a Prime Minister, he is a Vishwaguru of our country now. Because his thinking, his idea, the way he wants to execute it, the way he wants to put the map of India in the global world order is something we got to see this book, read this book and hear from it. This book is not written by his fan followers, admirers like me or some of the admirers sitting here. We had never had the opportunity to write this book. This book is written by eminent people from different distinctive walks of life who had the privilege of watching our Prime Minister very closely. Our badminton superstar, P.V. Sindhu, Olympian, she wrote about at the age of 72 why our Prime Minister Modi ji is India's undisputed youth icon. We say 35, 25, 18 is youth. Now we believe Modi ji at 72 years is India's top youth icon. Nobody can compete with him in terms of reaching the minds of youth. P.V. Sindhu ji writes about it. With respect to the education, the fundamental transformation, Apollo Shobha Kamini, she writes about how Modi ji has reimagined the healthcare system of our country.
All his policies are people-centric. Is one Prime Minister who sits in Delhi. Equally, he thinks about our Jitendra Singh Ji's state, a border village in the border of Kashmir called Turtuk. He thinks about Turtuk. He wants to improve the facilities of a village in Kashmir called Turtuk. The same Prime Minister thinks about Tamil Nadu's last village in Kanyakumari called Takale. Is one Prime Minister whose heart beats for the extreme points of India, for every single population who might not have the same access to our urban area or the same access to the capital city. And with respect to India becoming a Vishwa Guru, India is becoming a Vishwa Guru. We are reclaiming our heritage, reclaiming our civilization. Amish Tripathi ji wonderfully talks about Modi ji, how he is trying to reclaim everything of Indianness, of being a Bharatiya. For the first time, just yesterday, our Honorable Governor in Tamil Nadu has launched a very unique program of sending 2,500 people from Tamil Nadu to Varanasi, calling the Kasi Tamil Sangamam. So 2,500 people from Tamil Nadu, including 200 students, you are going to Kashi in the next 1 month to see Kashi, to see Ayodhya, to see Allahabad. Likewise, they will also come to Tamil Nadu. Ek Bharat, Shrestha Bharat, Ore Bharadam, Unnada Bharadam. Yes, just yesterday it is Modi ji's vision which got realized in Tamil Nadu, the program got launched. Likewise, eminent people have written bird's eye view of our Prime Minister's functioning, the way he thinks, the way he operates. For anybody who had the privilege of reading this book, after reading a book, trust me, I can assure you, you will be a changed person. Your perspectives about life will change. This is a story of a boy born in Gujarat in 1950 to a mother, to a father who are struggling to earn their livelihood. Father who was selling tea in a railway station to a mother who was struggling to bring up Modi. It is the story of a boy born in 1950. And this boy has traveled 72 years in our great country, from a boy to an adult, adult to a man, man to an administrator, to a politician, to India's world's Vishwa Guru. You will see very beautifully in this book the transformation of a boy to a Vishwa Guru. In 72 years, you will see this beautiful transformation. That is why it is our privilege to be part of this event in one of Tamil Nadu's, Chennai's finest college, MOB Vaishnav, because we believe the next generation of Indians should get inspired about this great Vishwa Guru, the kind of things he does, he dreams. His heart beats for India. Just yesterday, the Russian President Putin, in a speech in Moscow, he says, you cannot see a better patriot than Narendra Modi. You cannot see a better patriot. He is one guy who has fundamentally transformed the way India is seen in the world. His Make in India, look at that project, how it has transformed India. Certificates after certificates, the global world leaders, so-called superpowers, they are giving to this humble son of the soil, born in a small village in Gujarat, India's Prime Minister now, certificates after certificates. India, Russia, Ukraine issue, India's stand is being widely appreciated. So it's a great privilege to bring Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji. As I said earlier, nobody can present our Honorable Prime Minister very well than him, because he has got the unique distinction of watching our Prime Minister very closely. I thank our MOB Vaishnav College for consenting, agreeing to host this wonderful function, and also for our media நண்பர்கள் பெரிய அளவில் இங்கே வந்திருக்கிறாங்க இந்த காலேஜுக்கு, இந்த விழாவுக்கு. நிச்சயமாக இந்த புத்தகம் மோடி அட் 20 என்பது தமிழகத்தில் இருக்கக்கூடிய அனைவருமே படிக்க வேண்டிய ஒரு புத்தகம். இதை நம்முடைய மீடியா நண்பர்கள் பட்டி தொட்டி எல்லாம் நீங்கள் எடுத்துச் செல்வீர்கள் என்கின்ற நம்பிக்கையோடு எனக்கு பேச வாய்ப்பளித்த MOB வைஷ்ணவ் அவர்களுக்கு, அண்ணன் ஹெச் ராஜா அவர்களுக்கு, தம்பி SG சூர்யா அவர்களுக்கு நன்றி கலந்த வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம். பாரத் மாதா கி ஜெய்.
Thank you, sir. I now request our Principal Ma'am, Dr. Lalita Balakrishnan, to introduce the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh.
It's indeed a happy day for MOP Vaishnav College. As part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations, we have today Dr. Jitendra Singh speaking to us about Modi at 20, a person who interacts on a daily basis with the Prime Minister. It's indeed an honor, a privilege, a red letter day in the history of MOP Vaishnav College to host you and welcome you to our premises, sir. Many of you sitting in the audience, the large part of you were not even born when Narendra Modi ji began his political career. The book speaks about 20 years of administrator. As an administrator, how he has excelled in 20 years. And your age may not even be 20. It is a proud moment for each and every one of you that our college has been chosen for this book to be discussed and deliberated upon. And it's a proud moment for all of us here today that MOP Vaishnav has been bestowed with this distinction. I thank all the people who are responsible, especially Mr. Mehta ji, for bringing in this whole entourage here today so that we are to be benefited from the lessons of leadership mentioned in the book. I welcome Dr. Jitendra Singh. I also welcome Mr. Annamalai, IPS, who is the state president of the BJP here. I welcome Mr. Raja, convener of Modi at 20, South India. I welcome Mr. S.G. Surya, who's been here since yesterday to oversee the operations and help us organize this program. I welcome Shri M.D. Srinivas, Chairperson Board of Governors, for always being with us and guiding us through. I welcome members of the Managing Committee, Shri Fomraji, J.K. Javarji, and Mr. Hitesh Konodia. I also welcome members of the press, my colleagues, and dear students. The Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh, is a physician by profession and today a politician by passion, sir. So, he is the Minister of State holding independent charge for the Ministry of Science and Technology, Minister of State, Ministry of Earth, Science, and Minister of State for the Prime Minister's Office, Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy and Department of Space. A BJP National Executive Member, he was the Chief Spokesperson for the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. He won the Udhampur seat in the Indian general elections both in 2014 and 19 with the highest ever margin of votes for the 16th and 17th sessions of the Lok Sabha respectively. A professor of diabetes and endocrinology, a life patron, Research Society for the Study of Diabetes in India, founder, executive member, Diabetes in Pregnancy Study India, consultant, clinical practitioner, author of 8 books and a newspaper columnist as well. He is the ex-chairman of the National Scientific Committee, Diabetes, and the Research Society for Study of Diabetes in India. Besides being a doctor, he has also worked as a newspaper columnist. Initially, he wrote for the Kashmir Times. Subsequently, he switched over to Daily Excelsior, which is the largest circulated newspaper in J&K. His weekly column, Tales of Travesty, used to feature in the editorial section. In 2008, Dr. Jitendra Singh was appointed spokesperson of Sri Amarnath Ji Sangharsh Ji Committee, an umbrella organization of right-wing parties. He took premature retirement as a professor in order to join the BJP in 2012. Sir, we are very happy that you're here with us to enlighten our students on Modi at 20, where dreams meet delivery. At MOP Vaishnav College, we encourage our students to dream and chase their dreams very, very passionately. In fact, following the Skill India initiative of the Government of India, we have given more importance to MOP Swabhiman, which is the entrepreneurship culture being instilled in our students. We have also trained women in villages close to Tamil Nadu, not stopping the skilling initiative with our students. Under Tozhil Seiyalam Thozhi, an initiative, MOP students have skilled villagers in 20 villages on the suburbs of Chennai, and we are very happy about the initiative taken by our students. The Prime Minister has been a great motivator for our students, and I'm sure this discussion is only going to make it even better. I welcome all of you to this morning's program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We now welcome Honorable Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State, Independent Charge, Science and Technology and Earth Science, and Minister of State of Prime Minister's Office, Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Department of Atomic Energy and Department of Space to deliver the special address.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Seated on the dais, Thiru K. Annamalai, our very dear friend, a young dynamic inspiration for all of us, and very appropriately the President of BJP Tamil Nadu. Thiru H. Rajaji is a veteran leader. Most of us have known him for years. He hardly needs any introduction. Dr. Lalita Balakrishnan, whom I have to thank for being very kind and giving a very elaborate introduction, which was not required, but nevertheless, thank you very much. Srinivas ji, Mr. S.G. Surya ji, members of the managing board, members of faculty, and dear students. At the outset, I have to thank you for making me a part of this event, and as was being mentioned by Annamalai ji and also by Dr. Lalita, and I think the film which was shown just now is the evidence enough that this is one of the most illustrious women colleges now in Chennai. And I must say, seeing the sequence of visuals that we had, and I must compliment the principal, you have started producing luminaries one after the other, and also celebrities at the same time. So this is something which gives an education institution and an identity of its own. The faculty and the alumni, they are the two, because I've myself been a teacher for over a quarter of a century, so I can bear that out. And therefore, as Annamalai ji was saying, I also have to thank you that you have made this possible happen, because this exchange of thoughts would, I'm sure, happen with a galaxy of bright brains sitting over here. I also feel gratified for another reason, that I asked Dr. Lalita, and she said this college is affiliated to Madras University. And most of you don't know that I am an alumni of Madras University. The only difference is that I obtained my degree from Madras University nearly 10 years before this college was born. So much has changed since then. The very fact that Chennai was known as Madras at that time. And we had only one university. Now, of course, for the medical colleges, you have a different university. You have that MGR Medical. We had only one university, and at that time we had just about 8 or 9 government colleges. All of these, including the Pondicherry, Jipmer, were affiliated to one university. And then, of course, suddenly, after 1980 or mid-80s, the expansion happened all of a sudden. The private colleges, of course, professional, were not much heard of. So it gives me an added pleasure to see that now the place like Chennai, which was always known as a seat of learning, with teachers like Dr. Radhakrishnan, identified with this college, with this university, you have a college which is a yet another addition to that sequence of glories that have added to this university and this seat of learning. Incidentally, where in our case, we used to have our first year English classes in Loyola College. So many of the graduates of Loyola at that time also happened to be my contemporaries. And then we would go back to the medical college. It was like that. The arrangements were different because we were at that time Madras was following a British pattern of education till it changed over. Anyway, now coming straight to the subject of the book, and as has been sufficiently elaborated by the other speakers, this is a book, as Annamalai was saying, the reflection of the characters and shades of Prime Minister Modi and the India that he's walked through over the last 20 years. The question is, why Modi at 20? Of course, as was being rightly said by H. Rajaji, that here we have a person who is possibly the only one in the entire Indian subcontinent, maybe the world, who has consistently been head of the government for 20 years without a break. And an elected head. So I think this is a unique record which would go in the Guinness book. You won't have any head of the state consistently being the head. First as Chief Minister, the former Chief Minister, then as former Prime Minister, and that too elected. And therefore there are 21 chapters in the book written by different persons who have had the opportunity of working with him and also trying to reflect upon the phenomena of Narendra Modi in their own way. For example, you have Sudha Murthy telling us how this is a transformation of India from what it was nearly 25 years ago to the aspirational India that we see today. You have Jai Shankar, because he's the son of the soil, writing a chapter. And otherwise, in one of the informal conversations, he told me that when he was ambassador in China and Modi ji went there as a chief minister, he landed there late in the night. And he wanted to be brief because he said, I'll start my routine early morning. So it was quite a different kind of a experience for them, maybe a shock for them, because the dignitaries who earlier visited never, were found to be that industrious and that hard-working. And now, of course, that is a way of working for the government itself, because Modi is the head, so nobody can afford to be otherwise. You have P.V. Sandhu, as was being mentioned by Annamalai ji. You have Lata Mangeshkar writing how he has the knack of striking a spontaneous bond. She said, the first time I met him, it was like a brother-sister bond happening. And then, of course, you have Nandan Nikhani writing about technology-driven governance. So what I'm saying is that it's, of course, as was being mentioned, I have had the opportunity of being part of his team and having watched him closely, and I could write 8 volumes, rather 20 volumes for 20 years. But having said that, I think this book is also meant for the education institutions, because someday somebody could do a research on this and could do even a PhD on this. So this is more of a case study. It should be taken more of a case study, because, and since I have this bad habit of talking like a teacher, because I was paid for talking like that, so I can't get away. I am saying so because this is actually a case study. It is a case study of a model which has sustained itself for 20 years and continues to sustain in future as well. That is the promise it's holding. So this is something which requires to be researched, to be studied for the others to follow. Maybe it's a governance model, it's a model of carrying out a government, or in a nutshell, a governance model which has 3 aspects which need to be researched into. And I'm sure some of the students there would feel inspired to do so. A model, because nowadays we are very fashionably talking of sustainable goals. You have these SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. This is a very fashionable term. Even UN uses this very. So this is one of the SDGs in governance. A sustainable goal which has lasted for 20 years and promises to last even future. The second research aspect is that it's a model which defies the principle of diminishing returns. Each phenomena is destined to meet the fate of diminishing returns. Even in the married life, you get, not so crazy about each other over the period of time. And of course, in the governments, you have anti-incumbencies, you have so many things, people want a change. Here is a model of governance which has actually defied that principle. And on the contrary, instead of meeting the fate of diminishing returns, the returns have consistently increased. So every election that he went in, he came back with a larger majority, the last one being the largest. So that's again something to be researched into. Why so? Because if it is true, and if it has happened, then possibly there's something to learn from it. And the third is that this is a model which has grown stronger with each challenge. Mostly the models, they tend to weaken or crumble when confronted with an obstructionist event or a challenge. And the most notable example is that as Chief Minister, soon after he took over, there was an earthquake, a very disastrous earthquake, Bhuj earthquake in Gujarat. And the manner he managed it, it became a kind of a success story for the rest of the world. And as Prime Minister, very recently, you have seen the COVID pandemic. When everybody thought India would crumble and India would actually become a risk factor for the rest of the world, with its 135 crore population and heterogeneous from north to south, from up to northeast, it is India alone which survived respectively, while smaller European nations, like you see United Kingdom, the fate that they have gone through. So I think for all these three broad reasons, this is a research model. Now, as a person, what is it? Because I have also tried to research into these three aspects. So I can leave a cue and you can carry it forward for a thesis. As a person, what were the attributes which helped him to facilitate this model? A, that he has an unquenchable quest to study. He's a great learner. He's never tired of learning. And therefore he becomes I often tell people, more than a Prime Minister, he's a resource person. So if you are going to meet him with some subject, and of course he knows that you are going to come to him to discuss so and so, he would have, already accustomed himself, acquainted himself, read about it, good enough, not only to interact with you, but leave you at the end of the discussion with some new cues about it. And that is, I think, at least I made a principle for myself to try to learn one new thing every day, even otherwise. But a focused learning of the subject that is at hand immediately is what keeps that going. His long hours of innovation and introspection, he's constantly trying to innovate and play with ideas. And that's why you see so many schemes happening. His intimate connect with the ground, which of course is evident. And when I say innovation and playing with ideas, I think one of the best examples is this aspirational district. Nobody ever thought we could have something like that. For 70 years we had backward districts. But this was a scientifically designed model. You have about 41 indices. There is health, there is education, there is connectivity, there is accessibility. And depending on one single parameter, a district may be lagging behind. It could be high up on the other parameters. So how best to bring that district at par with the number one district in that parameter in the state, and then vis-a-vis number one at the national level. So we have about 750 odd districts. So how scientifically this model was designed with a dashboard, time to time changing the rating. So that is only when you are focused and you are concentrating on ideas, you get this. Now, what makes him different? I'm talking of certain things which are not there in book, but what I would gather after knowing him or reading him. A, that he has the capacity to take out-of-box decisions. Most of us feel comfortable being status quo because, that is a tried course which has sustained my predecessors and which sustained me also. And I think one of the best examples was that soon after this government was sworn in on the 26th of May 2014, one of the earliest decisions that he took was to do away with that dubious practice of getting the certificates attested. And I sometimes wonder why this couldn't have happened earlier. This was a dubious legacy of the British Empire because they didn't want to trust their subjects. They had introduced this. And coming from the kind of background that many of us like me come from, a semi-rural background or a rural background, when we got into class 9 or class 10, we didn't know where to get the certificate tested from because we didn't have a gazetted officer for miles together from where I lived. And we wondered as small children how he would look with 2 noses, 4 ears, or whatever would be the shape of the gazetted officer. He became such a, dream object for us. And I remember when I was in class 11, I had to shell out ₹5 to get my certificates tested because, and I didn't carry that kind of money. Somebody paid for me because some good Samaritan came and he said, okay, don't worry, give me all these certificates. By the end of the day, I'll get them attested to a big man, some officer. So within, the government came in May, by September this was done away. So that is one instance of this. Secondly, of course, the Article 370, which everybody made fun of BJP. H. Rajaji is an old timer, he knows. Whenever BJP was to release the manifesto, the usual gossip and joke would be, we know what is there. They will write Article 370 to be removed and they will not remove. So so these are 2 instances I am giving. Secondly, his capacity to break the taboos of the past. Like, for example, because otherwise I can go for the whole day. You have one of the departments called Space Technology, ISRO, which I am also dealing with. Its headquarters in Bangalore. For 70 years, it was actually functioning behind a veil of secrecy. Nobody was allowed to enter it. In fact, soon after this government came in and Dr. K. Radhakrishnan was the chairman of ISRO, he told me there was a launching going to happen at 4 o'clock in the morning and he said, Doc, I'll take you to a place where even my scientists are forbidden, that launching pad. So just about 2 hours before the launching, we went there and he showed me all the details. Then I told him, I said, Radha, I made a principle to try to learn one new thing. What I learned today is that to reach this place, either one has to be as world-renowned scientist as you are or somehow enter politics and become a minister. But then on a serious note, I was wondering why this has been so. And at least you are from a different generation, but my generation grew up reading a small remote news in a remote corner with a dateline Sri Harikota. Nobody knew where it is. Some launching would happen. Now, 3 years back, when this was put across him, can you imagine? Now the space sector has been open to private players and within 2 years we have 102 startups. Many of the college boys and girls, the youngest one is just about class 11 boy. So which means our young minds and brains and also the Indians at large had that kind of potential, they had that kind of capacity. But we had actually made ourselves prisoner of our taboos of the past and nobody was daring to bell the cat. And now see how, and now I was amazed that even most of the functionaries in NASA, which is the premier institution in USA, are from India. So that is the state of affairs. And so this is one example. The third, of course, is his capacity to convert a government campaign into a mass campaign. He speaks about Swachhata from the Red Fort. People don't understand what's it all about. And people are sometimes also amazed. The Prime Minister in his Independence Day address making a call to build toilets. Whereas, usually you got used to lofty platitudes by being delivered by the Prime Minister, whoever be the Prime Minister on the Independence Day. Here the Prime Minister was saying, please build toilets, beginning with the toilets from the girls' schools. Within 1 year, we had 4 lakh toilets built. So he was talking of the foundational issues, but his trustworthiness and his commitment to the grassroots sentiment was such that the masses adopted that. In my constituency, I had a girl, class 9, she refused going to school. She told her parents that Modi has said from Red Fort that there should be a toilet, so build the toilet over here. When I got to know, I got in touch with the collector. They got a toilet in that house and then they did a survey. There were 200 such houses in that village. which did not have toilet. So masses, there was an 80-year-old lady again in my own constituency who started going around raking which house had a toilet, which did not. So this doesn't happen often because we've seen the government launches a campaign and people don't take it seriously. We've seen the fate of that family planning, hum do, hamare do, whatever, started in 1960. Where has it landed? So that is, but this capacity comes through years and years of credibility building, which happens when you are able to evidently convince your masses about your sincerity and commitment. So people believe that if Modi has said, that means there must be some good for us. And fourth, of course, his futuristic vision, which is reflected in the Startup India. I again remember in 2015 in Independence Day address, because Swachhata he said in 2014 Independence Day address, each address was dedicated to some of the foundations. So 2015 he said Startup India, Stand Up India. Many people are asking what does this mean? And today, before 2014 we just had about 350 or 400 startups. Today it has gone up to 80,000 and Indian startup ecosystem is rated third in the world. And I was amazed and also very pleasantly impressed. Most of the European countries and US, they are preferring Indian boys and girls in their startup groups. See, I was in Germany about 2 months back. So out of my inquisitiveness, I wanted to find out why Indian boys, girls are preferred. So they gave me a list of reasons. One of them, which would fascinate you was, they said the Indian boys and girls don't take a weekend off. So, whereas a white boy will disappear on Friday evening and reappear on the... But that again speaks volumes of the kind of commitment and capacity to work we have. So this, because Modi knew that no government in the world, and I think that's also for each one of us to appreciate, no government in the world can provide a salaried government job to each and every individual. Many of us tell a lie during the election. We'll give you so many jobs, we'll give you so many. This doesn't happen. This is mostly the election times it is said. But yes, a responsible government is consistently devising means to provide livelihood or means which would enable a youngster to earn his or own livelihood. And therein comes the startup movement. So it is in last 7-8 years, India's startup movement is being cited the world over. And we have enormous avenues which were remaining unexplored, which have now got to be explored. And of course, in governance, as I said, the attestation was done away with. The interviews were abolished so that you have a level playing field. A number of reforms also in my own departments, which if I go on and on, because there will be a separate chapter on governance itself. Pensions, for example, is a lesser known department, not much was talked about it. About 2-3 reforms which I came across, we did that because we knew Prime Minister would support us. Like for example, there was a clause that if a daughter seeks divorce or separation, she would not get the pension or the family pension of her parents unless she gets a judgment from the court. I knew of so many cases, VVIP cases, some of the foreign ministers not being able to get rid, not getting a divorce from the court for 20 years. I said, how will this benefit? So he said, just let the petition happen. If there is an evidence of the petition having been filed, let the daughter get the benefit. Similarly, there was a clause that if a person dies before completing 10 years of government service, his family is not entitled to pension. I said, it's such a ridiculous thing. Did you ask him or did you tell him that if he dies, either you give him the choice so that he doesn't die for 10 years. If you have not given him the choice, what right do you have to deprive his family? So we did away. Then there was another clause, for example, that if a person goes missing, and this was a huge problem in Northeast, in Kashmir, in left violence areas, Annamalai from the police background knows that. Individuals go missing. Sometimes they are discovered, sometimes not discovered, sometimes dead body, sometimes not at all. So the clause was that either bring the dead body or wait for 7 years. I said that is precisely the time when it is required. So we actually did away with that. Pension was only Soon after the government came, I think within 3 months, Prime Minister intervened and we issued an order that the minimum pension would be 1,000 rupees. And we were asked to hold programs to launch it in different parts of the country. I was given Chandigarh. I was there along with the Member of Parliament, Madam Kiran Kher, and we were distributing the checks. You would not believe, an elderly woman came, she fell at our feet, we were so embarrassed, we raised her. She said, "No, you won't understand. My husband died 25 years ago. My family pension was just 35 rupees. And for 35 rupees every month, on the 1st, I had to come here. So go back and tell Modi, if he had come earlier, the story of my life would have been different." So you can just imagine the plight of that woman. The traveling itself would have cost her 10 rupees. So many of the reforms which have happened in the last 8 years are not only governance reforms, but they are actually social reforms, which were waiting to happen depending upon the contemporary scenario that India is going through. Similarly, the Corruption Act was also changed. Earlier on, anybody could lodge a complaint. Now the bribe giver is also equally culpable. So all these reforms, which were actually waiting to happen in the context of the socio-economic scenario that India is going through. Similarly, most of the development works, most of the schemes were oriented not depending on the vote bank consideration, but depending upon the requirement. That Antodaya concept that we have been following, the last man in the last queue, the Ujjwala program. Wherever it is required, the gas cylinder will reach. Nobody asks, what is your religion, what is your caste, what is your region, not even that, which party did you vote for. So this change of political culture and change of work culture, which has been subtly, unspokenly introduced through Modi's style of working, is something which is not talked about, which is not being realized, but it will happen after a generation. So we leave it to the people's wisdom to decide whether to vote for me or not. But what I do is, I do out of my conscience to reach out to those who require me. So this is something which is, and then from the youth point of view, as I said, next 25 years are going to be of the young startups, young entrepreneurs, and young administrators. And those who have 25 active, energetic years to put in, because when India turns 100, it is you who will have the privilege to celebrate Century India. And you will also have the opportunity and privilege to say that you also contributed to the making of India 2047. As far as we are concerned, maybe our satisfaction lies in the fact that we should be able to build your capacities for that. And to build the capacities for that, we need to reach out to you so that we are able to lead you in a direction where you can find, again, sustainable goals of economy. India has vast areas which have remained unexplored. Our agriculture area. Now that's a separate lecture on startups. I think I have another 2 days later. I'm going to do that also. I'll tell that. For example, in startup, mostly because Madras and Bangalore are the birthplaces, startup has somehow got fixed with IT, electronics. It's not so. It's more to do with innovation. And India's greatest potential is agriculture. So the agri-tech startup. We have started something called Aroma Mission, lavender cultivation. Boys and girls have made lakhs out of this. Many of them are not even science graduates. Some of them are just school dropouts. So these are the areas which Modi has tried to push in, considering the fact that we have to now dedicate our next 25 years to the building of these boys and girls. And I'm sure in 2047, I know how many of us will be around, but those of us are there, will be able to celebrate some of these girls tutored by Dr. Lalita Balakrishnan, who will be doing honors to India 2047. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Minister has consented to answer a few questions posed by the students. Students can come in front to ask your questions.
Hello, sir. My name is Bhavna, and I feel that patriotism and nationalism is something that has to be instilled in young adults and youths for it to grow and nurture in future. So, for the age group of 18 to 25, to instill or like strengthen the nationalism and patriotism, can there be some compulsory or at least like service in the armed forces or the parliament or any associated groups for instilling patriotism?
I think you have a point. Actually, that has been a school of thought for many years, and that suggestion has been coming time and again. Many of the countries have successfully followed it. In fact, UK has followed it over the years. Many of the prime ministers that you see have had a stint in the army, including Winston Churchill. So that certainly gives them not only a sense of patriotism, but also a sense of discipline and a commitment. In India, I believe the NCC concept was also inspired by the same thought. But let's see as the years go by. But several of these schemes actually have been designed to kind of emulate this model, though not making it compulsory, because in a democratic setup sometimes it creates a lot of issues also. But yes, this is an opinion which is persisting for quite a few times.
Thank you, sir.
Veer is not exactly so, but you're right. It is a middle way adopting that. So as a youngster, you have the option to go in there, then come out, then you can start something on your own for which the government gives you support. If you choose to carry on and if you qualify to carry on, you stay there as a permanent member of the forces. So this scheme, Agniveer, is being rightly said, has actually emulated that model, though at the same time not made it mandatory for every youngster to go, maybe keeping in mind the constraints of a democratic setup.
Hello, sir. My name is Vinti. So, in this world of pressures and demands, it obliges us to self-prioritize and prioritize our needs before others. So, how do you think we can strike a balance between, self-interest and selfless service towards people?
I think to add to what you said very nicely, you put it very intelligently. Actually, more important is to understand oneself. And the greatest corruption of the mind is done by the parents. The moment the child is out of class 12, they start talking about different coaching centers and they start making you run here and there. So the child doesn't even get time to realize what is her or his inherent potential and inherent aptitude. That is why I've started on a new experiment. At least in the college I want to go down to the school level of mentorship. Let these certain teachers in the college adopt students and be their mentors. Mentors in the sense in the ancient times, like that guru purpose. So they can identify the inherent traits of the child. Sometimes the parents overestimate, sometimes they underestimate. So both ways they do injustice to the child. I was once telling that many parents would think that the child is going to be an Einstein, but he was not meant for that. He can be a very good entrepreneur. So he goes neither here nor there. So I agree with you, and more important is that we try to actually self-introspect. Nobody can do that better than you can do yourself. Unaffected by your parents, by elders who may have biases which might be, in favor of you otherwise, but which could be coming from a conditioned mind. Like this government job is also part of a legacy, because for 1.5 centuries we were in a colonial rule. We were a feudal society. Our parents saw, they were made to bow down before the collector. I asked one of the boys, his father incidentally was a police inspector. He became IAS with a good merit. A Sardarji boy from Punjab. Because I interact with these children every new batch. The first 20, because I look after Masuri Academy, so it's learning. So he said, my father was an inspector. The message would come that collector has called you, and the whole house would go into an earthquake. He would look for belt. My mother would look for uniform. So we are conditioned by that. So that's why the parents are also saying that. But you have grown in a different era. As I said, I passed out from the same university 10 years before this college was born, but that time it was Madras, now it is Chennai. So many of us think from the Madras prism. You have to think in your own way because the entire scenario is different. Yeah, that's why I said it's important for a child to be more into oneself. And for that, to guide, you need to have mentors who actually are sensible enough, at the same time sincere enough, objective. Which would be in a way, replicating the old model that we have in the Gurukuls. I have started that. We have named those colleges star colleges. Someday I think we'll include this college also. We are providing it through the Department of Science and Technology, DST.
A very happy day, sir. So, many people don't have awareness about the Atmanirbhar Bharat schemes and programs. So, what can we do as young educated Indians to support the underprivileged communities and help them know about the schemes of Atmanirbhar Bharat?
I think it's not difficult to know because most of this is available on the website. But what is a matter of pride is that we are now not only Atmanirbhar, in many sectors we are providers to the other countries. Like for example, the first ever DNA vaccine for COVID was produced here, whereas every other country was looking up to us with caution. They thought India will spoil the show. But the vaccine came from here and went to the other countries. Our manpower, our human resource is getting exported. The other day, I was in Washington, the US Chamber of Commerce arranged a meeting with the Google group. I was amazed, the entire table was full of Indian boys and girls. All of them speaking in different Indian accents, some speaking in Tamil accent, some speaking in Punjabi accent, some speaking in Bihari, and then camouflaging it by twang American accent, as they do when they are there. But all of them were Indians. It was amazing. So we have a human resource. So I think we are already way ahead, and our young talent is amazing. No, it's already happening. It is already happening because they are preferring. In city of Berlin, there were 12 Indian restaurants. It's a small city, the population. So I asked one of the Indian boys, he's from Karnataka. I said, 12 restaurants. He said, and all of them doing very well. So I said, do you have so many of Indian population over there? He said, no, sir. I mean, there's a lot much to learn from these youngsters. No, sir, if we had to depend on Indian population, how would we survive? We have created that taste in the locals. So they come looking for idli and chola bhatura. Here at least it is different. In Madras, you will have idli and dosa. You will not have chola bhatura or prantha. And in Punjab, you will have that and not this. There they have cultivated. The boys are so fast. They have changed. And when I was seeing this and somebody was recording, and then I said, okay, so you have changed their taste, and some newspaper reported that. The minister says that our boys have changed the taste of the Europeans. So there's a lot of entrepreneurship along with innovation. The only thing is that we were not allowing it to grow. And this new education policy, which is known as NEP 2020, National Education, also is in the same direction. So one of the, incidentally, there's no chapter in the book on that, but I wish one could do that also. It is also because we had linked everything with the degree. As a result of which, India became a country of educated unemployed. You pass out from Vaishnav College and then do what? You always keep saying, my college was Vaishnav. My college, you name the college just to take satisfaction, but you are jobless. So now that is not happening. If you can leave the college in class 11, you go and try something. After 2 years, you realize, no, it's not my cup of tea. You come back, start continuing. In my generation, there was a phrase called dropout. Many of our contemporaries, peers, they left education halfway mostly for financial reasons. So when we would introduce each other, he would say, I'm matric pass. The other one would say, I'm 11th dropout. Out of embarrassment, not to say that I left the padhai, I left education. He would say, I'm dropped. So I was telling somewhere, I think one of the colleges, Delhi University, I said, now this phrase will no longer be used with the new education policy.
Good morning, sir. My name is Akanksha. And my question was, what do you think are the main challenges India faces as a country today? And we as young citizens, how can we come up with solutions for these challenges?
I think the challenge, of course, is not a challenge as such, which is also a blessing. Our challenges are our assets, actually. We have a huge population. I was telling other day, there was a global summit before I came to Madras yesterday. I told them, you always say 70% population below age of 40 in India. True. But you don't understand that 70% is below 40, but the oldies are not refusing to quit. They are not. So actually it is a biphasic thing. In 1947, when India gained freedom, our lifespan was just about 50 years, 55 years. People hardly had the opportunity to get a farewell party or retirement. Now, lifespan has gone to 65, 70, going on increasing. So we have, though percentage may be more of the youngsters, but the elders, the absolute number is increasing. So this is actually can be used as an asset, both the young and the old. And this actually has now started being used in that way, gradually, because we are learning how to put this challenge of population also into a positive use. Which is happening through the startup groups. The startup movement we have now again, startup is not only for the youngsters. I arranged a small event of startups above the age of 60. Startup means you are starting up your venture. You are not starting your age. That is also good. So startup somehow is a new concept to India. So it gets confused at two levels. A, we think it's only for the youth. B, we think it's only for IT and electronics. It's not so. So and your challenge of diversity is itself your asset. See, you have a whole lot of bamboo. You know that agarbatti, what do you say in Tamil? Udbatti, yeah. You have a business of 5,000 to 6,000 crore per year in Udbatti alone. But what is happening? All of it coming from Korea, Vietnam and China. Because you are not using your bamboo and you have a huge reserve of bamboo. This government has done that also. The Indian Forest Act, which was formulated in 1918, 100 years ago, has been amended very recently, about 4 years back. And this bamboo has been exempted from the forest clearance. The homegrown bamboo. We have a homegrown bamboo in plenty. Maybe here also towards Nilgiri Hills. But in Northeast it's in plenty. So we were not actually using our resources. Our minds got fixed with this government job, government naukri. We didn't look hither, thither. And the same resources were being put to use by the other countries. So I think our challenge itself is our asset.
Thank you, sir.
Happy day, sir. So my question is in context with aspiring women athletes, how do you encourage and support them, which would translate into greater representation of them in sports?
I think this government, as Annamalai mentioned, PV Sandhu's write-up, has done tremendous to encourage sports. And now it was, the entire definition has changed. Earlier on, parents scolded their children if they spend time in playing. Now, parents are coming and asking for the children to be, admitted into sports academies because it's become a profession. And Indian boys and girls are excelling. So, it is happening on its own because we had, again, same thing as I was saying in response to the earlier question, we had that potential, we did not institutionalize it. For example, most of these, I was in charge of Northeast for 7 years, most of the Olympic medals come from Northeast athletics. And these are amazing young girls and boys who don't have a coaching center. They didn't have a gym. They were just, practicing jumping from the rooftop down. Sometimes hitting their head sometimes. And they went and, got medals in the Olympics. So the talent is already there. We were not institutionalizing it. So again, credit goes to Prime Minister Modi. He has institutionalized the area of sports. As a result of which now it's also becoming a profession. And parents are encouraging them because they think, okay, someday he might become a sportsman and make commercial benefits also.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for patiently answering.
Nobody from behind got the opportunity. If anybody, because behind the cameras they were left.
Thank you, sir, for patiently answering our questions. The dignitaries will now pose for a group photograph with the book.
In that case, somebody else wants to ask, that can also. Annamalaiji suggested that each of the students who asked question will be presented a book. So I said, in that case somebody else also wants to ask and come in to get a book.
Thank you, sir. Students who pose the questions now will be awarded with a copy of the book. Please come up on stage. That brings us to the end of the proceedings. Introduction on Modi at 20, Dreams Meet Delivery. We would like to thank the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh, for his special address. Your address has kindled our curiosity, and we will definitely read the book, sir, and be inspired by the glorious leadership of our Prime Minister. We would like to thank Shri K. Annamalai, State President BJP Tamil Nadu, for his presidential address and kind words about the college. Thanks is due to Shri H. Raja, Convener Modi at 20, South, and Shri S.G. Surya, State Secretary. Sir, Dr. N.D. Srinivasa, Chairman, Board of Governors, and members Shri Ponga, Shri Hitesh Kanodia, for their presence this morning. Special thanks to Shri Deepak Mehta. Many thanks to our principal for bringing such events to our college that help us enrich ourselves. Thanks is due to the other invitees, members of BJP, members of the press, and the students and staff of MOP for being a lovely audience. Finally, thanks to the presiding deities of college. Audience is now requested